and really immersed himself in sports in this market like you have, from a radio and a writing angle, and just about every form of media. But your body of work speaks for itself, and I've told you this before. I'm a big fan.
No, we could do 4 hours of this. I think we could. I would think we could stretch this out, man. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Mark. I appreciate it, and I will say, when I got to town, your voice was one of the voices I immediately picked up on as a reliable, entertaining daily routine. So it's cool to do a show with you, and it is very cool to have Elijah Campbell producing today as well. So it's gonna be an interesting 4 hours. We have a ton to talk about. We have some great guests today. We have got Shay Ralph, Vandy's new women's basketball coach. She's going to be calling in at 7:30. Turron Davenport for his weekly visit at 8 to talk Titans and draft. Of course, Terry Crisp will be with us at 8:30. And then we'll have Kyle Tucker, one of my coworkers at The Athletic. We're going to talk a little Kentucky, little SEC transfer portal madness. Tennessee now is just loading up on the 5-star. See, I know Elijah is very excited. We're going to get into some college hoops a little bit today, some college baseball, some college sports. I hope that's cool with you, Mark. It's a little, we're going to do a lot of Titans Preds, but we get into the college realm a little bit too.
Yeah, that transfer portal, Joe, if it physically actually ever existed, would be SRO at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's like way too many people in there for spots, but man, it's really changed. We got the one-time transfer rule now, which is a very interesting thing to debate. So we'll get into all that. I do want to talk some Preds right now off the top, Mark. Last night's game, of course, Nashville comes in having won 13 of 16. Red hot, one of the stories of the league, in playoff position, kind of hoping to prove, that this team can match up also with Carolina. Just thumped Tampa Bay 7-2. Yes, Vasilevsky was not in goal, but still, very impressive performance. What was your takeaway, Mark, from last night's 4-1 loss at Carolina?
Sort of wrong place, wrong time. There, as you know, Joe, there are spots on the schedule that it just is a bad matchup on a particular night. The Preds are just off scoring 7 goals against Tampa Bay in a night where everything went in. They met one of their ultimate nemesis in Mrazek, who just when he sees a Nashville Predator, he just doesn't allow goals. It doesn't matter what uniform he's wearing. And the fact that Carolina was coming off 2 straight losses to the last place Red Wings. And I think they were a little fired up about that. So, that and the fact that speed teams give this Predators team a little bit of trouble. And I just thought that after Warren Fogel's goal, it kind of, took the air out of the Preds, and Mrazek thwarted them a couple of times. And you just saw the night was not going to go well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there was some deflation with that goal, and it is kind of amazing. Mrazek, so he's 10-1 now, right? I think he's 10-1 against the Preds. Yeah. I don't have the other numbers updated, from after last night, but it is kind of amazing. And I think to like Pecorine and his mastery of the Edmonton Oilers over the years, and I don't have that number for me, but it's ridiculous. So the Preds need one of those nights like the Oilers had here last year, where it's like they take out years of frustration in one night. But I agree. I think early in that game, the Preds had a couple chances. I thought they were playing really well. He and that's where a goalie makes such a difference in this game. He makes a couple big saves, and then I agree. It seems like Carolina's speed, like you said, and just the way they pressure. We had Hal Gill on yesterday, talking about, they leave it open for you to get great chances if you can deal with it, but you have to navigate that pressure, and they believe in it. They are committed to it. It is very different from what you see a lot of nights in this league. And once again, it just looked like a bad matchup.
And with that pressure and getting those chances also allows Carolina to get, odd man rushes, which happened on a few occasions. And though UC Saros has been unbelievable, it wasn't his best game, but he's been so good. I'm not going to sit here and point the finger of blame. And Joe, was really a night where I thought their fourth line with Pitlick, Cousins, and Janot was really their best line, especially early in the game and late. So you're just going to have one of these clunkers. It's just going to happen through the course of a season. And last night, I thought for the Predators going in, that was going to be a tough game. And Chris Mason made an interesting comment during the telecast, and that is, when you come off a game where you score 7 goals and everything starts going in, and then the next game you face a goaltender who's stopping everything, it's a little demoralizing psychologically. So, I think that's a short run thing, but I think all of that was at play last night.
Yeah. So what is your buy level been with this team, Mark? I mean, I know. Look, I've changed a ton in the past few weeks. I mean, they turned it around, and still, it's like, okay, great. Every team has some ups and downs, and this team gets a couple wins. But I mean, as time went on, it started to look like some real consistent elements to this team and just to the turnaround. Like, where are you in terms of buying this team as a team that could actually go into the playoffs and make trouble for someone?
I think that last win over Tampa Bay was sort of a tap on the shoulder to the Lightning that if they face the Preds in the first round, it's not going to be as easy as they thought maybe a month ago. This team is just playing great. I mean, for the most part. And John Hines obviously got them to buy into what he wants, because there are really no stars on this team other than maybe Yossi and the way Saros was playing. I mean, this is a great blue collar team that's going to outwork you, and they're tough to play against. I still think, though, they're a borderline playoff team. I don't think they're as good as their winning streak, in recent days and weeks. But I also don't think that they're the team that just absolutely stumbled out of the gate. And to me, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when a guy like Matt Duchene comes back, because Duchene, in my mind, in my opinion, doesn't exactly fit the profile of this team. But you don't want to, they're not going to healthy scratch him either. And they're going to get Forsberg back, hopefully. And Tolvanen had been playing well. So I think it's going to be a fight to the finish for the fourth spot. I still think Dallas is pretty banged up. And I think that's obviously in the Predators' favor. But I still think they're a borderline playoff team. And I'd still be skeptical that they could beat Tampa Bay in a best-of-7 series.
Yeah, so last night the Detroit Red Wings actually did give the Preds some help, beating the Blackhawks 4-1. But Dallas did win, and I still think like that win over Dallas the other night was massive, and they've been banged up, but they are supposed to be getting healthier here. They still got 3 games in hand. They're 5 points behind the Preds. The Blackhawks have a game in hand and are 4 points back. So, and then of course next week, you've got 3 Nashville-Chicago games. I mean, basically, it's just like a mini playoff series, right? I mean, that's basically what it is. 1 here, 2 there. What about the trading deadline, Mark? I like this. So, Robbie and I, obviously, like daily, we go back and forth on a lot of things, and it's great to get like fresh perspectives on all these things we've been talking about. So, what did you think going into the trading deadline, and were you surprised it went the way it went?
I was really surprised. And I was even more surprised that David, was so blasé about the fact that it really wasn't even close. You've always got to take the long view of your team. Now, if they weren't going to trade Matthias Ekholm, they weren't going to get that super package, which, they probably would have gotten a 1 and a prospect and another player. So, and I understand that the way they were playing, that is defensible. but I'm surprised they kept Grantland. But I also know this, that the bigger picture for them was not the team, next season. The bigger picture is that vaccinations are up, and they think they can fill the building for a playoff series. And in a year where they've lost significant revenues, because they're limited, I understand that. I understand the business end. And this is a franchise that you can't criticize for going on the cheap. I mean, they have been a spend to the cap franchise, but I understand why a playoff series would be important to them. I also think, too, that Sean Henry sees what's happened downtown with the bombing, with the pandemic. And I think he feels like the Predators could really reignite this city and really get them excited, maybe not to the level of 2017, but maybe they can find some late momentum even in the playoffs. But I understand all that. So, viewing it from that perspective, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised.
And speaking of the playoffs, I have a little bit of a wacky idea that we'll get into next. So stick with us here on Robbie and Rex Show, Joe Rex Show, Mark Howard, Elijah Campbell, and if you want to get involved, the text line, the phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We'll be back. And welcome back in, Robbie and Rexroad. Joe Rexroad, Mark Howard here, Elijah Campbell producing. Like to let you guys know, tune in later on in the show as we will reveal a keyword for you to text into the game line for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Homegate giveaway. A Dos Equis prize pack, including a case of beer, dessert from Nothing Bundt Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. We are back talking Preds, and you kind of touched on it, Mark, last segment. Maybe this is a bad idea because, the Preds beat Tampa Bay 7-2. Like you said, that's a confidence booster, but it's also no Vasilevsky, no Kucherov, no Stamkos. Now the Preds are very banged up too. But am I crazy to think that the Preds might actually prefer Tampa Bay in a first-round series to Carolina? Elijah,
I just think Carolina's speed really gives them trouble. It's a great point, Joe. And yeah, I mean, possibly that could very well be the case. I think I do. I agree with you. I think they match up better against Tampa Bay than they do against the Hurricanes. It's going to be interesting to see how the Preds play tomorrow night. But yeah, this team, I just think a speed team like Carolina is going to give a team like Nashville its headaches just because of the way they play.
Yeah, now you mentioned, the fourth line, which and it's been various combinations. Obviously, they've had some injuries there, and then Tanner Jeannot comes in and he's just blasting everything in sight. But I just think that fourth line has been maybe as good a fourth line as I can recall in my 5 years here in terms of consistent play and just bothering the opponent. But such an important aspect. The other guys coming back in, like you said. I mean, Forsberg's coming back. Great. You've added skill. You've added punch. That's you have to have that. And I think last night is one of those nights. And we've even seen in some of these wins. I mean, the win over Dallas, great win, gritty win. They had 13 shots with 5 minutes left in the third period, right? They need more punch. They need Tolvanen. Duchesne is interesting. I think a lot of people are kind of pointing to Duchesne, who wasn't producing this year. I didn't think he was playing as poorly, I guess, as the production would suggest. But the buy-in question, I mean, do you think that there's any concern about a drop-off in some of the intangibles this team has been living on with the trade-off of adding that